Tottenham 1, United nil. This could be the season over. This could be things worse than we thought. This could be the fact that the club could actually get relegated. So this game was important in telling me many things. So number one, I'd said back when Amarim signed that by the Spurs game, I should probably have an understanding of how he plays, how he sets up a team, the decisions he makes, and results. So now we have reached that point, and I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, he has more losses than wins. And yeah, some people and most people will blame the squad itself. They'll say the squad is very underwhelming. See, I was thinking the same thing, but these last few games have shown me as bad as the players are, you should think about what especially Ruud van Nistelrooy did. It's called respecting the players that you have and honoring the fact that certain people have accomplished certain things. Why do I say this? Well, look at the two players who sort of performed to a reasonable level today. There were only two from our team. There was Casemiro and Zirkzee. Them two were the only ones who were progressing the ball, keeping the ball with us, and creating anything of note. The rest of them, all nine of them, you could have just said that they all played the same way because there wasn't much of a difference. But the fact, guys, it's Spurs. You don't need to put too much respect on Spurs because we all know what Spurs is. They have a history of what? Bottling, not showing up when they need to. The fact that I just checked the stats. So since last season, since Ange has been here, they've beaten us 4 out of 5 times. And the one time that they did not beat us, we drew. So we have essentially not even beaten Ange yet. You know, when Amarim came in, I was prepared to take losses because we knew the squad wasn't that good. And we knew this new style, the new formation would take some time to settle in. What's the one thing that we all wanted? At least performances. We wanted to see a level of standard that would be maintained regardless of what happens around us. Are we seeing that now? Are we seeing anything close to performance that would indicate, okay, we are much better than before? We were not this bad under Ruud van Nistelrooy. Now you can say it was just, 3 games or 4 games? But even in those 3 or 4 games, you look at the teams we played. We played Chelsea, who were on form at that point, and we got a draw. You could argue maybe on the balance of the game we would have won. Then there was a Leicester game. 3-0 win, solid win. It wasn't like we played bad in that game. It's just we did what we needed to do. Essentially what Liverpool is doing, trying to win the league this season. Now, if we are going to criticize Amarim this way, if we're going to say, and justifiably so, that he has certain biases, whether that's Diogo Dalot, whether that's Rasmus Højlund, regardless of what happens, them to start, it tells you it's Amarim's fault, but don't we also have to hold one of the players I just mentioned, Bruno Fernandes, the captain, accountable? Even if you think he is this world-class midfielder, which he is not, by the way, you still have to admit the fact that along with the manager, the captain goes down with the ship as well. Even in that case, he should be one of the first ones to leave because he was the leader and he's failed. So, if the project fails, you sack the leader first. And you know what pisses me off with Bruno? Is the fact that he is all about running. He's all about being the engine, the one who never gets injured, the one who's always there for the team, the one who's covering every single spot and at the same time playing the passes. Well, if he's this person, then the one thing he should have is positional discipline. I.e., when he's next to Casemiro, he should understand Casemiro is not a runner anymore. He's a progressive passer, he's a destroyer, but after that, it's Bruno's job to take the ball, to be the engine, to get Casemiro the ball so that Casemiro can do whatever he can. But that's when, throughout the entire game, Casemiro was being left isolated in the midfield. Why? Because Bruno wants to take up the cam role. Because He always has this complex of being right next to the striker. He's had this even when Ronaldo was here. So for the past 4 years, I've seen Bruno do this countless times, where he takes up a role right beside the striker and he essentially assumes a role of a second striker. And even if it's not a second striker, he still forays too far ahead. He should not be where Zirkzee was. He should not be where Garnacho was. But yet you saw Bruno Fernandes occupying those spaces repeatedly. When he should have actually been partnering Casemiro, when he should have been destroying play or rather progressing from deep. And along with Bruno, there was Garnacho. And you see the last 4 or 5 games where Garnacho was, let's just say, trying. By Premier League standard, he was still shit, but according to his usual levels, he was slightly better than that. So I was willing to give him a chance. I was thinking, okay, you know what? Maybe, just maybe Garnacho might change. Certain players do change after a certain age and all that. So it's not like I gave him a chance, but I was like, I'm stuck with him now, so I might as well give him a chance. But even then, I still thought 50 million. Napoli is willing to offer 50 million for Garnacho. You know what? Just accept it. We move. And today showed me why I had such a strong conviction from last season. In fact, not even from last season, from the season before that. Why I was so sure Garnacho would never succeed here. It's things like this. Yeah, he might score in the occasional game. Yeah, he might assist in the occasional game. But what does he do in the crucial moments? He had a chance. He had a second chance. And he misses. He goes missing when the team really needs him. The most shocking thing I realized today was that he hasn't even scored under Amorim. The last time he scored, if I'm not wrong, is the Leicester game. And that Leicester game was under Ruud van Nistelrooy. And ever since then, this star boy young winger who the fans and Ineos said we should not be selling him for any less than 60 or 70 million hasn't scored a goal pretty much since November. So, what are we to think of, first of all, some of the fans who still back Garnacho? And secondly, and I would say even more importantly, Ruben Amorim himself, who is starting Garnacho, who's starting certain players over the kids. Because it's not like we're winning, or it's not even like we're drawing certain games. We are losing every single game that we're playing now. I'm at the point you just play the kids. Because you know what? At least that's an unknown quantity. At least we don't know what we're going to get with them. Maybe if we play 5 of them, one might succeed. So that's better than seeing 5 players that consistently fail every single day. We know that is what's going to happen. You play Garnacho, you play Hoyland, you play Dallo. We know there is no chance that 99 out of 100 times you're going to see a bad performance. So if that's the case, why not drop them and play kids? Yes, they might not be ready, but there might be one that's ready. And because of that one that's ready, just because of that, we might survive. Because truly, the way it's going, I am really like, before this, it was all a meme. It was a joke. Like, oh, might we get relegated? No. That can never happen. Now you look at the teams right behind us. We play another team who is now ahead of us, actually, Everton. And Everton and Goodison Park. It's going to be worse than this. Because not only are Everton on form, not only did Everton just draw to Liverpool, but now Amad Diallo's out for the season. Kobe Mino's out for the season. Whatever you think of him, Martinez is injured for the season. Ugarte, who knows how long he's out for. Collier is out. And the fact that Casemiro, we don't know how long he's going to be in the team as well, because you can just tell Amorim does not trust him. Why that is, nobody can tell. But for some reason, he does not seem to like the idea of playing Xerxes. He does not seem to like the idea of playing Casemiro. And so he's going to persist with Ugarte when he comes back. We don't have Kobe Mino. We don't have Ahmad Diallo. So any creating hopes that we had have just disappeared. Dorgu on his debut in the Premier League, that is, underwhelming. And of course, it's going to take some time to adjust and all that. But unfortunately, the situation he's in, he doesn't have time to adjust because it's not like we're winning games or we're drawing games and we have time. No, he has to deliver now. And first game kind of disappointing. But I'd say the player that I was most shocked with was Delict. Like, I did not expect this bad of a performance from Delict. Like, Delict was getting skinned every single time that he was one-on-one against anybody. Kulusevski had him on toast. Kulusevski, Madison, I don't even remember. Kulusevski, Madison, like most of their attackers had Delict frightened really. The fact, again, I think it was probably to lead with Delict's bad performance. We weren't winning first balls again. And it's just negatives to take away from this game. Like, can I name you a single positive from this game? Well, I mean, not really. I had to think there for like a minute or two. I couldn't name you a single positive from this game. Whether that's the structural setup, whether that's the result, whether that's where we end the league, whether that's something that we could do in the Europa League, FA Cup. The fact is, we do not have a concrete attack. And that implies what? If we don't have an attack, it means we're not scoring goals. At the same time, we have a defense that cannot win first balls, that looks structurally disorganized. At the same time, this manager will never play Casemiro and Ugarte as a pivot. So when Ugarte comes back, guess what, guys? Casemiro is back on the bench. Even though Casemiro was our best midfielder, best player, I would argue. And Xerxes a close second. And speaking of Xerxes again, he'll be back on the bench when whoever comes on. It doesn't matter who it is. When somebody is back from injury, Xerxes will be back on the bench. It's looking like there's more negatives than positives with this manager. Because let's look at it now. Before we conclude everything, let's just look at positives and negatives of Amorim so far. So the positives you would say are that he doesn't take shit from anybody. So when there was Rashford, whether that was Garnacho, when they fell out of place early on, he dropped them. And Garnacho, let's just say he apologized or he tried to make up for it and he was back in the team. He got a few starts. Rashford did not want to comply, and because of that, guess what? He's been kicked out. That's good enough. Now, second thing, he did actually stick with the 3-4-3 system that he came in with. And whatever it is, even though he wanted to invert wing backs, he wants the 10s to drift out wide. It's somehow what he still wants to do. The efficiency of that is a totally different argument, but that is still what he's trying to do. So that's two positives at least. If we're going to talk about the negatives of Amorim, it's longer than two, let's just say that. So the first thing is that he has biases towards certain players. Certain players he will not play. Certain players he will play regardless of what happens. Who are the players he plays always? Bruno. He will play Højlund, even though through sources, Amorim has indicated that Højlund is not a player he likes. And Xerxes, he plays occasionally well. So Højlund plays, Bruno plays, Dalot plays. Ugarte also plays regardless of what happens. And who are the players that will not play even if they can score like 6-7 goals in one game? Xerxes does not start. Today he had to start because you saw the bench. Who else was he going to bring on? And Casemiro. Casemiro, who is the best player in our team, has been sitting on the bench ever since November. So you can imagine, in 2025, before this game, he had 19 minutes of game time. So you would have accepted it if he was rusty. But the fact that he came in and he still wasn't rusty, he was still the best player on the pitch for us, tells you Amorim is messing up heavily. So, like I was saying, Casemiro, Zirkzee, they will not start regardless of what happens. And Ericsson as well, you can say, because he's in the same bracket. He is levels clear of Bruno Fernandes. The only thing Bruno has over Casemiro, over Kobe, over Ericsson is the fact that he runs, nothing else. But guess what? Amorim is going to stick to it because why? Portuguese bias. And Anthony was another player who was not given a chance. I was saying, please give Anthony a chance at right wing back. And just look at what he's doing in Betis. Now, you might say it's a different league, but good players can play well. Unless you're in a system like United, where it's unstructured to a degree I've never seen. Like, there's no other team in the Premier League that is this disorganized as us. Even today, you saw Spurs. Even with Spurs, they're not organized, but they are slightly more organized than us. Who goes to Spurs and doesn't score? Even Leicester won there, I think in the last 7 games, they couldn't win a single home game. And look what we did. And going back to the cons of Amorim, there is the players that he picks and the biases that he has. And the fact that we don't still have a style of play. Because, in the first few games, we saw a style of play. And now it's just pretty much Amorim blaming it on, I don't have the players, I don't have this, I don't have that. If you don't have the players, you know what you should do? Find a player from the academy. Yes, we might still lose. Find a player from the academy who plays the exact same style. Don't tell me that out of all the, let's say, the 50 or 100 players that we have in our academy, don't tell me you cannot find 11 players in each of the positions that we're lacking in, where you can't find players that can play your style of football, or at least can be molded into your style of football. And it's not like we're winning. So you might as well drop the players who are not performing and you get in the players who can. So if he did that right, I would have a bit more respect for Amorim. Then I would say, you know what? At least he's trying. But the fact that he's still persisting with players like Dalot, like Bruno, players who can't play his system, just because he might say, that's experience. We need experience. Experience for what? For losing. And the third thing I would say is things like him playing players out of position. What do I mean players out of position? Think about last week. He had Dorgo and Dalot. He starts him as a right wing back on his debut. And we know at wing back, Dalot is next to no good. And at left wing back, he's especially bad. So, guys, that's 3 things that I thought of off the bat. And the list is way longer. You know that as well. You know Amorim has more flaws than positives. So, this is not me saying Amorim out or anything. For me to say Amorim out, I think I'd have to wait till August. One thing that would kind of bring me back on side is if he can drop the players that he does not appreciate. If he says Højlund is not good enough, if he thinks that Dalot is not doing his job, drop them for some academy players. Then I can slightly look over the result. And along with that play style thing as well, he was meant to bring in a change, but the team has got worse. I saw a post somewhere, right, where they said, Erik ten Hag took the knife, stabbed us and created the wound. Amorim is just taking that knife and just stabbing us back again. Or just adding salt to the wounds. That's what he's doing at the moment. It's not like he's remedying it, because I can understand the fact he hasn't got his players. And that part I can sympathize with. But what I can't sympathize with is the fact that we're still playing disorganized football, and he has certain player biases. Like Bruno shouldn't be starting. Like Dalot shouldn't be starting. Rasmus Højlund, regardless of what happens, till now, he could have been on the bench, Maybe now he can't be because we don't have any senior players left on the bench. But are you telling me in all of Amorim's games, In all of Amram's games before this, he couldn't have been in all of Amram's games before this, he couldn't have been dropped. And this finally brings me to the point. Well, we are in threat, guys. When I mean threat, this is a huge threat. This is probably crisis moment. Like, we could get relegated. Understand the fact. Like, this is no joke anymore. We could genuinely get relegated. Why do I say this? Look at the games we still have to play, right? We still have to play Chelsea away. We have Arsenal at home. We have Aston Villa to play. We have Bournemouth away. I swear we have Brentford away as well. Then we have Forest away. Then we have Everton coming up away. This is all I'm asking. Where is our next win coming from? Where is our next 2+ goal win coming from? Because frankly, I can't see it. Because I can think to the next games at least. Everton away, I don't see us winning that. Ipswich at home. Ipswich at home is a tricky one. And considering the fact that on Amram's debut, they still did not lose to us. Then even if it's at Old Trafford, guys, what is it whether we play at Old Trafford or away from home? It's the same thing at the moment. So it's not looking good. Yeah, guys, honestly, I don't know where our next win's coming from. That was Tottenham 1, Man United 0. And yeah, I just pray we don't get relegated, honestly. What do you guys think? Comment down below and see you all in the next one.